Hello guys, welcome to Career Compass. This is Deepan Ghatalia, your tutor for ACCA, UK Tax and SBL paper. Now students, let's start with the new chapter, which is the relief for individuals. Students, we are going to start with the BADR, the Business Asset Disposal Relief. But before proceeding further, let me tell you that whatever relief that we will going to learn in this whole chapter, students, some of the relief will going to give you the discount in the tax rates, just like BADR, Business Asset Disposal Relief, will simply give you the benefit in terms of the tax rates. Generally, if you apply CGT, then it may be possible that 20% tax will be levied or 28% tax will be levied. But here it's a fix, it's a 10% tax will be levied if you are qualifying. Okay, so BADR is such a kind of the relief which is not going to give you postponement just like rollover relief, but BADR will going to give you the discount in your tax rates. So you have to understand that which relief will going to give you which kind of the tax benefit and how you will get benefited. So let's start with the BADR, students. As I told you, you are having the lifetime limit of the £1 million. Whatever your chargeable gain is getting qualified under the BADR relief, students. If it is under your lifetime limit, then your gain will be chargeable at a fixed rate of 10%, irrespective of your other incomes and your basic rate band availability. So I hope you are getting this point. But to claim this benefit, to claim this BADR, students, you are having the three different kind of the qualifying disposals. Not all the disposals will going to get this benefit. Only three disposals are getting qualified. The first one is disposal of whole or part of the business. The second one is the disposal of assets, individual assets, while seizing your business. And students, here the rule is that if you are closing down your business and then after you are disposing your assets individually in future, then within 3 years you have to dispose all of your assets, or within 3 years whatever assets have been disposed of, on those gains only you can claim your BADR. And the last one is, students, the disposal of shares. But here, students, there are like kind of the two conditions are attached by the HMRC. The first one is that if you are disposing your shares, then you should have minimum 5% ordinary shares, you should have minimum 5% of the stakeholding, and you should also be an employee of the company. Now you can be the full-time employee or part-time employee. If you are having any of these qualifying disposals and if you are fulfilling the given conditions, then you can claim the BADR, students, and your gain will going to be taxed at a 10% rate, and it's a lower rate, as we all know. But here it's not like here we are done. No, students, there is another important condition which you have to remember and compulsorily, students, and that is the qualifying time period limit. That means a kind of, we can say, the ownership period requirement is given by the HMRC. If you want to claim this BADR relief, then students, you should have owned the whole business, or you should have owned the assets, or you should have owned the shares for minimum 2 years before the disposal. So whatever disposals that we have talked about, the three disposals we have talked about, all the disposals should have been owned previously for minimum 2 years. So students, here we are almost done with the BADR. But still, if you are having any query, feel free to ask. Now let's move to the next relief, which is the investors relief. It's a very simple relief, but the important thing to note down over here is that it will only and only be given to the disposal of the unquoted shares only. Now this investors relief is almost same, just like the BADR. In the BADR also we were having the reduced CGT rate. Over here also, students, we are having the reduced CGT rate of 10%. So we can say we are getting the benefit in terms of the discount and in terms of the discounting CGT rates. Okay. So like investors relief is the same as it's BADR, but the thing is that BADR were having the three qualifying disposals. Investors relief is only having the one qualifying disposal, and that is the disposal of unquoted share. Apart from that, students, there are sub conditions, sub rules are also given by the HMRC. The first rule is that if you are having unquoted share, that's not enough. You should have subscribed these unquoted shares, and after the 17th March 2016, that date you have to remember, compulsorily have to mugged up. Then after, the second condition is that you should have owned for minimum 3 years after 6th April 2016. And the third and most important condition is that you should not be an employee. Yes, students, the not word is written. That means you should not be an employee. If you are employee, you cannot get the investor relief. Okay. But now another important rule over here is that, students, you are having the lifetime limit, maximum lifetime limit of 10 million pound. So it's too much lifetime limit we are having in the investors relief. So that difference you must know. And students, I hope you got the idea. Now let's come to the third relief, and which is the rollover relief. Students, we have mentioned the rollover relief in the previous chapters also, in the variations to the computation we have discussed it, yeah, right? So I think that you already know that what exactly is the rollover relief and when exactly we will going to get the rollover relief. We have seen that when the asset will going to get lost or it will be destroyed, then in that case it may be possible that rollover relief will be claimed, depending on the reinvestment made by the person. But in the normal cases also, students, the rollover relief can be claimed with subject to this fulfillment of certain conditions. It's very obvious. But here also, students, the concept is same, that if you want to claim the rollover relief, then you compulsorily have to sell the old asset, and from that disposal proceeds you have to purchase the new asset. So that is a simple reinvestment requirement given by the HMRC to claim the rollover relief. And we all know that once the rollover relief is claimed, students, in future we will have to calculate the base cost of the new asset. So that I hope that you know already. Now let's come to the main portion, and that is the qualifying business asset. If you want to claim the rollover relief, and student, then in that, you can't get the rollover relief in every asset. No, there are only 3 assets mentioned over here. You can see on the screen, which are the qualifying assets. The first one is the land and building. It covers the freehold asset, that means owned asset, and it also covers the leasehold asset. But it is compulsory that the land and building that we are talking about has to be used for business purpose or trading purpose. Then after, the second one is the fixed plant and machinery. It's fixed word written, so that means it should not be movable. And the last one is the goodwill. Now goodwill is the qualifying business asset for the individuals and for the unincorporated business only. If you are having the company, then for company the goodwill is not a qualifying asset. They cannot claim the rollover relief on reinvesting the amount in goodwill. Okay, so for companies there are only 2 assets, but right now we are not learning the company's portion. It's simple individual portion. So there are 3 qualifying assets. Now next concept is, students, the qualifying time period. If we are talking about the reinvestment, then the replacement asset, or we can say the new asset, must be acquired within 4-year period, beginning from 1 year before and ending in 3 years after the sale of old assets, students. So I hope you are getting this point. It's kind of simple qualifying time period limit, qualifying time period requirement. So students, here we are almost done with the important rules and about the ROR. But we know that the ROR can be claimed 100% if we are making the 100% full reinvestment. But what if we have reinvested the partial amount of proceeds only? Then in that case, students, we all know, as I have mentioned previously also, when you are making the partial reinvestment, your ROR will also going to be the partial one. Now HMRC have not given any rules about that how much ROR you will going to get in this situation, or how much partial ROR you will going to get. Now ROR in this case will be the balancing figure. And how can you derive the balancing amount or like that? students, they have given the rule for the chargeable gain. So if you know the chargeable gain, then the balancing figure will automatically be calculated. Obviously students, you can see on the screen also I have given the example that your total gain is 10,000, your chargeable gain, let's say suppose you have determined is 6,000. So it's automatically the ROR will, the balancing amount of the ROR will be the obviously the 4,000. Okay, so here the ROR will be the balancing figure, but you will simply ask me that, sir, how to calculate the chargeable gain of 6,000 that you have mentioned? Students, it's a very simple, it's a lower of amount of proceeds not reinvested, and the second is the total gain. Okay, so that is how you calculate, that is how you determine your chargeable gain. Okay, so here we are done with the partial use also. But our next concept is the reinvestment is in depreciating asset. That is also an important one. I have mentioned a very simple requirement, simple condition. The Kaplan have given a kind of little bit complex condition over here. But this particular concept will only and only be applicable if you are having an asset with an expected life of less than 60 years is called an depreciating asset. And if you are reinvesting, if you are purchasing the new asset and depreciating asset, then in that case this concept will be applied. But now what you will simply ask me that, sir, what does it mean by depreciating asset? Basically the depreciating asset will come up mainly as in like fixed plant and machinery, or it can be the leasehold property with less than 60 years of lease period. Okay, but once you are confirmed with that we are reinvesting in depreciating asset, what will happen? Students, you will going to claim the obviously students ROR, and your gain will get postponed, your gain will get deferred, we all know. Okay, but whatever ROR that you have claimed, it will not going to give the impact on base cost. Okay, whatever gain that you have deferred, students, it will become taxable separately. It will not become taxable by way of base cost, it will become taxable separately on an earlier of the disposal of new asset, the date the new asset ceases to be used in trade, and the third one is the 10 years after the new asset acquired. So whatever is the earlier date you find in the question, on that particular date your ROR will get taxable automatically. Okay, so I hope you are getting this point, but still if you are having any query, feel free to ask. Then after the next relief is once the gift relief. As mentioned in the name, it's a gift relief. That means there will be the two party, the donor and donee, and the one party is giving the gift. Then in that case, how the relief will be claimed, and students, relief is this particular gift relief, it works almost the same in the same way just like ROR. Whatever is your gain, 100% gift relief will be allowed, and that gift relief will going to give impact on base cost in future. So you can see on the screen there are two proformas I have mentioned, but you will be wondered that, sir, why you have written the market value in the disposal proceed column. Students, we all know, as we have studied in the first chapter of the CGT, the disposal proceed cannot be the actual one if we are gifting something to anyone or we are transacting with the connected party. That kind of the rule we have studied in the first chapter of the CGT. So I hope you are remembering that thing. Now, students, if you want to claim this gift relief, then another requirement, another condition is that the donee must be an UK resident person. And this gift relief is an optional one. If you don't want to claim the gift relief, and if you want to claim any other relief, then also you can claim, students, like BADR. It may be possible. So you have to remember that this gift relief is optional. So you can choose which relief you want to claim. Okay. Now, students, gift relief once again is having the list of qualifying business assets. There are, you can see the 5 types of the assets which will get qualified to claim the gift relief. The first one is the personal trading company's assets. Then after unquoted shares and securities, the quoted shares and securities, but you should have the minimum 5% stakeholding, because you can see on the screen that the word the quoted shares is written, but at the end you can see that there is also mentioned that it should be the personal trading company. Then after, the agricultural property is also getting qualified, and the last one is the chargeable lifetime transfer, which is the like a gift to trust. So these are the qualifying assets, students. So I hope you are getting this point. But students, now let's say suppose that there is a two person, there is a friend 1, there is a friend 2. The first scenario is that friend 1 have given this mobile phone to the friend 2 at a totally free of cost. It's a birthday gift maybe. So the friend 1 have not charged anything. Friend 1 have like not received any kind of the disposal proceed over here. It's a total free of cost gift. Okay, then in that case, students, you will going to get the 100% gift relief, just like we were claiming the 100% ROR if it's full reinvestment, right? But the another scenario that can be possible is that let's suppose the friend 1 have given the mobile phone but at a discounted price. Let's say the market value of the phone is 15,000, but the friend 1 have said that okay, you are my friend, so I will give this mobile phone to you at a price of 12,000. So the 2,000 to 3,000 amount of the discount is given. Now this scenario, the second scenario, the discount scenario is called and sale at under value. Now if you see in the examination that this is the case of discount, it's not 100% gift, some amount of the consideration is charged, then in that case, students, what you need to do, you should not directly allow the 100% gift relief. I'm just saying that, I'm not saying that gift relief is not available or gift relief will always be partial one. No, I'm just like simply asking you to check once. I'm simply asking you to do not directly claim 100% gift relief in this situation. It's totally different like concept, so you have to understand. What you need to do, students, you just have to check your original cost and you have to check that what exactly is your proceeds, actual proceeds over here, like discounted process. Okay, so whether you are getting any proceeds over and above your original cost or not. You can see on the screen that our original cost was 10,000. I have actually sold this mobile phone at a price of 12,000, whose market value was 15,000. Okay, so these are the facts. So what you can see on the screen that how I prepared this pro forma, the disposal proceed should be always be the market value, because I'm transacting with maybe let's say suppose connected party or it's a gift or anything. So I have mentioned disposal proceeds is in 15,000. Even if I know that my actual disposal proceed is 12,000, but I should mention the market value according to the rule. Then after I deducted the cost of 10,000, so I got my total gain of 5,000. But as I told you that, students, I cannot directly claim the gift relief of 100% 5,000. No. If you see on the screen, students, I just simply have to compare my actual disposal proceed with the actual cost. And my actual disposal proceed is 12,000, my actual cost is 10,000. So I am getting the 2,000 amount of the like realized gain. The 2,000 is my clear cut realization gain. I'm realizing it, I'm getting 2,000 extra over and above my cost. So this particular 2,000 first of all should be written in the column of the chargeable gain, and the remaining balancing figure will become your gift relief. So my balancing figure of the gift relief will be 3,000. Okay, so this is how, students, you have to treat this whole transaction if they have given the sale at under value kind of transaction. Okay, then after, students, the next concept is the shares in personal trading company. When we are gifting the shares, then one thing that we need to check, and that is the proportion of a chargeable business asset and the chargeable asset. Now you can see on the screen, students, I have given the definition also. What is the chargeable business asset, CBA and CA? It's very simple, just review it, and according to that, students, proportion, we will going to get the gift relief. So that means we can say that gift relief can be restricted if we are transferring the shares and we are having some kind of investment asset with us, then in that case once the gift relief will get restricted. So here we are done with the gift relief also. The next relief is the principal residence relief. As mentioned in the name itself that it's related to our main residence. Okay, then in that case if we are disposing the main residence, we will going to get the principal residence relief. But there is a formula, students, you can see on the screen. The relief amount is not 100% amount, it's not anything. You have to apply the formula, the period of occupation divided by period of ownership. Okay, so now the important thing is that the period of occupation covers the actual occupation as well as the deemed occupation. Now what does it mean by actual occupation? That means if literally I am like living in my house, it's my actual occupation. But what does it mean by deemed occupation? I'm not living in my house, I was in a trip, I was in a UK, I was in a USA for some work, but still it will be assumed by government, it will be assumed by authorities that I am living in my house. Okay, so that is called a deemed occupation. Now deemed occupation will also be considered as a total occupation. I hope you remember this rule. But this deemed occupation cover the 4 deemed occupations. The first one is the last 9 months of ownership. Second, any period spent working abroad, up to 3 years of absence for any reason, and the last one up to 4 years of absence while working in the UK. Okay, but if you see on the screen, students, the second point, third point and fourth point, these all 3 points, the last 3 points is having a kind of sub conditions. They are saying that if you want to claim the deemed occupation according to these 3 points, then after claiming this deemed occupation, your property should be actually occupied compulsorily in any period later on. I'm not saying instantly you have to actually occupy, but any period after that, the property should be actually occupied by the owner. Okay, and if let's suppose if you are claiming the deemed occupation according to point number 2 or 4, and you have claimed the deemed occupation, but because of the job reason, because of the employment reason, because of the terms of the employment, you are not able to reoccupy the property, then you can claim the exemption in these reoccupation rule. But the reason should be clear cut, the reason should be the employment. Okay, so I hope you are getting this point. Then after the last relief is the letting relief, students. It's very simple. Along with the principal residence relief, you can get the letting relief, but it should be first of all your main residence. You should also leave, it should be your main residence, and you should also live in that house. But apart from you, along with you, if you are letting out your property, part of your property to some tenant, then you can claim the letting relief. Now the important rule is that if you are living in your house, apart from that your tenant is also living, but you are also providing the food, then it will not get qualified under the letting relief, because it will look like as an hotel, it will look like as an you're paying a guest or something. Okay, because you are not just providing accommodation, you are providing the food also, meals also. So if you are providing meals, then letting relief is not possible. Okay, but let's say suppose it's a normal scenario, the person is just living along with you, then the letting relief is lower of PPR relief, £40,000 and gain related to the letting period. Okay, so here we are done with the relief which will be there in the fundamental level taxation syllabus. So I hope you are getting these points, students. If you are having any query, feel free to ask me. Here we are done with this session, students. Thank you guys, see you, bye.